Yep. I mean, it's basically, we just need to have it on record that you took the oath and that you swore your fealty to the library board, so to speak.
Hey, will do. Okay. I do swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States and of this state, to discharge faithfully the duties of this office to the best of my judgment and ability, to represent the Grand Marais Public Library both to the people and to governing officials, to see that adequate funds are obtained for good library service, to promote the best possible use of all library resources in the area, to encourage cooperative activities between different types of libraries, and to extend library service to those not previously served. Sounds good to me.
Great. That sounds like a great thing. Welcome aboard, Sue. Thanks for putting your name in there. We're still looking for more candidates, so if anybody has any other ideas, tell them to put in an application.
Okay.
And Sue, if you have any questions about how we do things, just kind of jump in and ask. We do things pretty streamlined, pretty casually. So that's we'll go from there.
Okay.
First thing that we have is a consent agenda. 3 things on the consent agenda. This agenda that we have in front of us. So if there's any modifications to the agenda, now is the time. The minutes for the previous meeting on October 26th, which were in the packet, and the bills submitted for payment. Two bill sets, 1021 and 11-4. So unless somebody would like to pull one of those items for conversation, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda as presented. Anybody? Did my computer cut out? You're muted, Helen.
Thank you. And nobody knows I said hello, so hello again.
Hello.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, so there is a motion, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Was that Chris?
Yep.
All right, and so the way we do this is we go through this as a roll call vote. So I just start on the top of the list and work my way down, and then everybody puts in their vote. So top of my list is Sue. Sue, your vote on the consent agenda.
Yes, aye.
There you go. Chris, your vote.
Aye.
Helen, your vote.
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. The consent agenda carries unanimously. All right, so then we're going to move on to the Library Friends Liaison report. So Chris, jump in.
The Library Friends have received applications, and we will be meeting in early December to decide on the distribution of funds. And I will have more to report in December.
Cool.
Yep.
Got it. My notes are taken. All right. Does anybody have any questions for the Library Friends Liaison? Seeing none, we'll go on to the ALS Board Report. So that's you, Helen. Go ahead.
Okay, I thought you might be interested in what is happening with the opening, or how the libraries in the ALS system are currently either opened or closed, or anyway. So this is, we have 27. For some reason, only 26 were in the report, but we do have 12 that are curbside, 2 with computer by appointment, 1 with printing by phone or email. 10 are open with curbside. And that's an interesting thing, because some of those in the last report were open, but they didn't have the curbside. And then there are 2 open with no curbside, but 2 are totally closed. One of those is a health issue, and the other is has not been opened at all during the entire COVID period. And it's interesting to know, though, that their books are being borrowed through other libraries. For instance, the Grand Marais Library, that might want to have a book that is from one of those closed libraries could request it, and there's a process of it being the courier service, in other words, it's going there, can pick up that book and it can be taken to the Grand Marais Library and be checked out, and then it can be returned. But there are some libraries that are close enough that I think people just drive to a different library, check out a book from their own library, which would be, I don't have it before me, so I don't want to make a mistake in stating exactly which library that is, because there are 27 of them, and I don't have it here in my brief notes. But the point is that even though the libraries are closed, their books are being used because of our courier service, and I think that's a very interesting bit. I wasn't here last month, and I wonder, would you like to hear what I wanted to tell you last month if I had come?
Well, you have the floor, Helen, so you tell us if you want to.
Okay, well, there are some interesting people on the ALS board, the board of trustees, and one of them is an archivist, and he works over in Chisholm, and he wrote an article for the Chisholm paper that's it was written up in the Hometown Focus. I mentioned this because it sort of fits in with what Sue being on the board. This was an anniversary of the Iron Range effort to create a historical reference, and it has become the center or the hub for the Minnesota Discovery Center, which is in Chisholm. And the fellow, what he has done, well, let me just read this as I've written it. It's a 40-year anniversary, and it started out as a tourist and historical cultural preservation initiative. Does that sound familiar, Sue, with the Trail Historical, and with the museum there? Okay, the Iron Range Trail had opened 10 years before they were starting the advertisement of it, as we currently now know that the Gunfin Trail is doing. And what they wanted to do was to, and this sounds again like the Gunfin Trail, to mark and interpret places of cultural, geological, industrial, historical, recreational, and scenic interest. And the comment made by one of the local Iron Rangers, who is the editor of the Hometown Focus, said this: the Iron Range Research Center in Chisholm has a professional archives containing government, corporate, and personal records that tell the region's complex story. The research center, combined with meticulous, engaging museum exhibits, are, in my opinion, what make the Minnesota Discovery Center, which was originally known to the Iron Rangers as Iron World, very special.
Mm-hmm.
That was okay. So that was what I wanted to report on last week. Not only that Chris Weller did that writing in the paper, but that it fits in with what we want to do with the legacy. That's the idea of having a story of where you're from. And I don't know how Sue will fit in on that, because we're talking about Cook County, and if we could get Cook County as part of that notion of what the legacy book will be about, it might be. So it may be a very opportune time for you, Sue, to have some input on what's happening at the library. Mm-hmm. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
That
Okay.
would be it.
Thank you. All right, so then move on to the director's report. So you have the written director's report in which she talks about trustees. We had John Books resign. We've got Sue on the board now. Some heating issues with the building. mainly probably because of the collection or about the circulation window, and then some conversations about the quarantine of materials and the movement towards more digital content. So that's what the written report is. And Amanda, I don't know if you want how you want to pursue the rest of the director's report, or if you want to jump back into those written things, but take it away.
So I just want to touch on the quarantining materials part that's in the director's report. The Minnesota Department of Education, especially at the end of July, before July, was recommending libraries would be closed to in-person service entirely and only offering remote services or curbside pickup programs. At the end of July, as the schools were determining what to do, they alleviated their guidance and provided only a general message that we should do what's appropriate for us, for each library with local jurisdiction. Since then, the first thing that they've really given us very specific guidance on has to do with the quarantining of materials, when they finally took a stand and said that quarantining materials for at least 24 hours together with recommended sanitation protocols is expected to be sufficient for mitigating risk for COVID-19 transmission. And so during the emergency, our library has erred towards quite an abundance of caution with our quarantining procedures, but with staff support, we've reduced that to 3 days, which is still much more than the 24 hours recommended by Minnesota Department of Education, but it has significantly allowed us to improve customer service. So the books that our customers are getting, they're waiting 3 or 4 days less to get them. The books that we're sharing with other libraries were being quarantined by the library sending them, quarantined by the courier, quarantined by the libraries receiving them. And as libraries are taking a different stance towards quarantining materials, those are being significantly cut down, helping the chain of supply move faster. So we definitely have fewer complaints in the library, and we're excited about that. The pickup window, I do think, may be the root cause of why we ran out of propane early last month or this month. We started noticing that the temperature was not setting correctly in a couple of rooms, and then the temperature wasn't setting well anywhere. And almost said, you know, we predict when you're going to run out of propane and come ahead of that. But if you're using your propane differently, you could run out. So I do believe that it's happening not just because we have the pickup window in, but it's when we're doing extended customer service at the window. So we have it open to communicate with people. We're getting a mix of cold air coming in and kicking on our exchangers. That's my assessment based on what the Como oil guy and staff and I have been putting together. So that could impact our bills.
Yeah, it's important to pay attention to that. The longer that this stays open, then we may have to make a modification to the, well, I mean, we can't really change the budget at this point, but we just have to be aware of the fact that our heating expenses will probably be higher through the course of the winter. So.
Yeah, the alternative that I can see is opening to in-person pickup. So as maybe not opening the entire library, but what it would be is that people are able to come into the library to the front desk behind, which is plexiglass, to pick up their materials and go. It becomes a little more challenging to deal with mask ordinance in that case, because, for example, with computers by appointment right now, no one gets the door opened until we're sure that they have a mask that covers their nose and mouth. This would allow people to walk into the building and perhaps have nothing or have a visor. And so we would lose a little control, but we might be able to save on heating and be moving one step closer towards a reopened library, which is ultimately goal. So right now I'm just alerting everyone to what that situation looks like. And that's my report, unless you have a question for me.
Any questions?
I would like to comment that there is a library that is allowing this open to the lobby, pick up at the lobby is the way that it's described. I don't think I mentioned that when I was giving my ALS report. So
Cook Public Library was doing a curbside style program and is now doing a pickup in the lobby. It's a 1-employee library, I believe. And I think their lobby is arranged differently than ours. I do not have doors that lock internally. So I can't control, once I open that outside door, I can't control how far in a customer comes.
Right. It's a very open building. Yeah.
Intentionally.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else?
Hearing no questions, Jay, I think that's it.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for your report. We'll go to the committee reports. Personnel Committee, that's composed of Chris and Helen and I. When we get done with the meeting here, let's stay on the call,
Mhm.
and then we
Yep.
can talk just briefly about doing the director's evaluation. Helen came forward with some good suggestions for how we can do that in COVID time, and I think that it makes sense for us to take a look at that, get that done before the end of the year.
Yes.
So communications, we just have the monthly statements from the Duluth Superior Fund and the St. Paul, Minnesota Fund. Take a look at those if those are of interest to you. The funds are both still doing well. The St. Paul, Minnesota Fund actually wasn't performing as well as the Duluth Superior, it appears from the statement, but really at this point, it's kind of a moot point. I mean, it's they're doing what they can do in this environment. So those are our communications. We have nothing listed for unfinished business, but then for new business, we do have some things, and we have those. These are all in our file here. Signature for 2020 bills. So I spoke with Amanda about this before the meeting. So, we had talked about how can the board sign the bills so that we can make sure that we're signing off on these things and doing it the proper way. Amanda talked to Kim at City Hall and said that since we passed the bills with a motion and the motion is recorded in the minutes and then we approve the minutes at the next meeting, that really does, that meets all of the requirements that we need. It
Great.
checks and double checks the passing of those minutes so that there's a record of who voted for it and who didn't. So that's kind of a moot point. I would recommend that we proceed with doing the consent agenda and the motions in the minutes and not worry about getting signatures, because if we wanted to get signatures, we would have to get a different program to do it, and it would be more complicated. And we're already meeting the criteria.
That's good.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So the next thing is the calendar of holiday closures and board meetings. I don't know if you all want to pull that up. This is a pretty standard list of what is approved by the city for days where the library will be closed. There we go. Thanks for sharing your screen there. I'm assuming that was Amanda. So one thing that I would like to make, or a note that I'd like to make on this one, and I do believe that we have the ability to do this as the library board, is to take a look at Columbus Day and change that to Indigenous Peoples Day. So
that.
So other than that, this is the list that has been approved in the past. Some of the years we've had to talk about dates that have fallen around major holidays like Christmas, and there were a couple of other ones that were always kind of odd because of the day of the week that they fell on. But this year it is not really a problem because Christmas Eve is on a Friday. So then, Thanksgiving is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It always has been. And then Christmas will just be the Friday, Saturday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, obviously. So we need a motion to approve this, but before we do so, are there any suggestions for changing this other than the Indigenous Peoples Day?
No, they looked good to me.
Yeah, I thought it sounded good, but I asked the question of myself about the Columbus Day because I thought we had switched that already. So I'm definitely in favor of us switching it.
Okay. So then I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve this, to approve the calendar of holiday closures and board meetings, with the exception of, with the condition of changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day.
Okay.
Well, I will write that in here. with condition of changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. Is there a second for that motion?
Yes, I
I'll
second.
second that.
Oh,
Okay, was that Helen that seconded it? She got there
Yeah,
first.
Sure.
All right, we'll go through the roll call vote here. So Sue, you can start your vote.
Aye.
Chris, your vote.
Aye.
Helen, your vote.
aye.
And I am an aye as well. The motion carries unanimously. Great. And then the strategic plan for 2021. So I thought I had looked through this. I thought that we had spoken about this in a previous meeting, but when I was talking with
No, I
Helen,
don't think we have.
yeah, this is a different draft of what we had talked about. So with that said, Amanda, I think I'd like you to walk through this with us so that we can take a look at all of the different things that you've added to this, and then we can go from there. So take it away.
Thank you. So first of all, the strategic action plan that you saw from me so far was actually a review of what happened in 2020, given that you changed directors and that the pandemic came and did what it was going to do. So what I did was I gave you a review of 2020, and this is now looking ahead for 2021. Second of all, what I'd like to say to open this conversation is that in 2021, we're still going to be dealing with the pandemic. We're going to have a significant Highway 61 project that will happen in front of the library. I don't think you'll be able to turn onto 2nd Avenue from Highway 61. You'll have to kind of approach this roundabout. There will be a lot of clanging and banging that will go on through the summer into the fall. And I think when it's done, it's going to be pretty gorgeous and impressive, much as like we've seen further up the road. So that's going to contextualize sort of our service experience if anyone's using our lawn during the summertime, if COVID resurges, or if it calms down and they just want to be outside. It may be a backdrop to any programming we have, but honestly for 2021, I'm really looking at a significantly reduced programming schedule, and it will really be based on what's going on with COVID and virtual programming and how indoors everyone is and how much of our time that takes. So being flexible there. Goal 1 is that the community will increase understanding and appreciation of the full range of human diversity. And I've just selected 3 key focal areas. First of all, we've had a variety of priorities that we've been looking at each year since we started our program in 2018. That includes women, Native American or Indigenous persons, transgendered persons, Latinos, tweens, and groups benefiting from economic inclusion. So what I propose for 2021 is we give ourselves a chance to synthesize everything that we've learned, really digest everything that we've learned, rather than introducing a new concept. I did have someone on staff at a late moment recommend that we include here BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, since it was such an important theme for 2020 this year.
Good.
You're going to continually see the reopening progress mapped into our 2021 strategy. And here under this theme, it's really just giving people back the space. They're paying for it. And it's such a valuable asset to the community just to have a place to go. And then one thing that I think we could pull off is a National Day of Racial Healing, which happens on January 19. I've already reached out to Cook County Higher Education, which has really been taking a lead with racial healing and ending systemic and institutional racism in our community. And they're very interested, and they're connecting with some other partners to see if we can't do something together.
Very good.
So, and from my view, this would be maybe we do bookmarks and create awareness around it or something like this in conjunction with other community organizations.
Great.
Goal number 2 is that the community will have an increased knowledge and utilization of library resources and programs throughout the county. And you'll notice that this section of the plan is quite chunky. And if you remember back to the 2020 conversation that we had, this was the area I felt we had the most opportunity given COVID-19. So again, we want to keep our reopening progress moving. That definitely is a good way to get people to utilize our services and resources. We noticed that one of our staff is really embedded in the Grand Marais community page on Facebook, and because she's there and because everybody recognizes her and her name, whenever somebody has a question about the library, another person in the community will tag our staff member who will just answer on our behalf in her free time. And I thought that was a really exciting direction for the library to go, especially since Kristen and I aren't as embedded in the community, literally and figuratively, that we would just participate in the community, the virtual communities that are happening just as ordinary people, but that would help us start to develop our presence. So it's not as though we want to go in and take it over and be like, hurrah, library, but we're going to be there and be ready to answer any questions and have some of our own and have our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community.
Good.
The communications plan, strategies, and stories. So Jay, you've talked a lot about us getting on, just really getting on target with telling our story to this community. And that's really what this is about, but I think we need to break it down into sections to make that. And those sections are creating a communication plan so that everybody on staff is presenting a similar message and that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Part of that is having a strategy so that we're actually, if we're trying to promote to families, how are we reaching families? Because that's not the same way we're going to reach seniors or any other demographic of our community up and down the shore, up and down the trail. And then beginning to build our story. So I'm new to library advocacy. Steve was a fabulous talker. That really wasn't my role. So this is how my staff and I are going to have an opportunity to really think about how we talk about the library, how we promote the library, and how we connect with our community. And we're hoping to do that in a variety of ways. We'd like to update some signage and do some collection displays. And we'd also talked with the board, I think in our last meeting, about introducing laptops or hotspots, and we're selecting hotspots as a viable thing for us to look into to see if we can't extend internet up the trail. So
That'd be nice.
So if I back up, we're just looking at how do we connect and how do we get the word out, all things considered COVID-19. Goal 3, giving people a comfortable environment that gives them a sense of community belonging. Again, reopening. We really loved the water bottle refill station. I know Jay was super excited about that too. The poetry walk would just be a convenient thing to take care of. It's an outstanding project that the library has. It would tie into that glamorous new Highway 61 corridor. It would make us more accessible to the public. And if you imagine this, you would come from anywhere in town up this swooping poetry sidewalk into the library, refill your water bottle, feel very welcome, come into the library and start your visit there. I want everybody to understand that this project would get canceled if the highway or moved if the Highway 61 project doesn't finish in enough time for the sidewalk to be laid. And we also have to secure a contractor. So I'm working with the city who's working with the Highway 61 department to try to work our project into the ones that they're doing. And then we'd have an awesome party and everyone would be invited. And then keeping that outdoor space viable as a comfortable place for people to use their internet, especially if they're uncomfortable coming indoors, and trying to maintain these grab bags. They're pretty time intensive, but they have so much benefit.
Mhm.
Goal 4, young children develop a love of reading and improve their literacy. So I think I said it really well in the document here. COVID-19 disrupted the close relationships we have with our youngest patrons and their parents. And so we obviously need to develop the skill set, and we're just going to give Erica and other staff a chance to have at it. So we're going to develop a page on our website, and we're going to try things. We're just going to try to do a virtual story time. We're going to try to promote some early literacy skill building tools and see what takes, see what the community's interest is, and hopefully along the way, increase our value to the community, to our parents and families, and establish a virtual relationship so it's there if something happens again. Ready to Read is brand new. Chris will be submitting our grant request to the Friends tomorrow morning, and we're asking them for support with this particular program, which we've been finessing a little bit. Right now, it looks like it's for children 0 to kindergarten. We're going to expand that a little bit, say 0 to 8, and see what happens, just so that we can get as many people in on early literacy skill development as possible. And when I talk about celebrating the families in the library, we have some really great ideas about a more permanent display that might have name plaques added as a child or a family completes the program. That would be more of a permanent installation in the library. We're not really sure what that looks like yet, though. And then, of course, continuing our staple programs like winter reading and summer reading. So if you want to think about it this way, winter reading and summer reading are short, contained programs. We get everybody a burst of reading and literacy practice, especially in key times when they might be out of school and needing to keep those skills fresh and sharp. Ready to Read would take about 3 years for someone to complete. So this allows us to have a more long-term goal and just really try to develop those daily, regular reading habits. So I think it complements what we're already doing very nicely. So if you zoom back out and you say, here's the library, it's 2020, our doors are closed except by appointment for computer access. And here it's coming 2022. People are approaching our building on this gorgeous poetry sidewalk. The people whose poems were selected, the people who have put their poems in, they're being celebrated. You come in, you experience hopefully this brand new drinking station. You notice how many bottles we're helping reduce, how many plastic bottles we're reducing from our community. You greet our staff who's excited to bring you on board. You meet our children's librarian who's letting you know about all these fantastic programs to help you and your family develop early literacy skills. We've got this really dialed in program of diversity priorities that have now become a part of our identity. And we're doing things in our community, like connecting with other organizations in an effort to change how we treat underrepresented communities, as well as just basically, what will we say, the full range of human diversity. So that's the package that I'm presenting to you today.
Wow,
Thoughts on that?
it sounds fabulous.
Really
It's
well
better.
done.
Yeah, I think that it's a good way of being realistic about the goals that we have and how we can apply them in the current situation. So thank you so much for that work. If there's any further
It's-
discussion, I'd say bring it. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2021 work plan as presented.
I just want to comment on how outstanding I think it is, considering the circumstances of how, I mean, just the invention in here is just unbelievable. And the compression of time to get the thoughts out and the opportunity for it to grow from the way it's presented. I am just absolutely delighted with what Amanda and her staff have done with this.
Yep.
Thanks, you guys.
Congratulations to all of you. Mhm.
All staff put something in here.
Yes.
Great. That's
I
really good.
would like to ask, as you motion, I want to update the priorities to include BIPOC, just so you're aware of that.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
So yeah, we'll just include that in the motion. Is there a motion? Is anybody willing to make that motion?
I'm willing to make the motion, but I'm not quite sure I'm understanding the term that,
Biracial, indigenous.
oh, okay,
people of color.
okay. I didn't realize they could be pronounced. That tells you where I'm coming from.
Okay,
Okay, yes, please put that in. And then I would, with that addition, I would move that we accept the strategic work plan as presented.
Got it. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
McPherson. All right, any further discussion? All right, so we'll go through our motion here, motion process. So we'll start with Sue. Your vote.
Aye.
And Chris, your vote.
Aye.
Helen, your vote.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Carries unanimously. Fabulous. Well, that's really great. That is all the stuff that we have on our agenda right now. I would encourage Helen and Chris to stay on the
Yep.
on the call. Is there, so that we can discuss that stuff. Is there anything else before we adjourn?
It's good to see you, Sue. Glad you're here.
Well, thanks. It'll take a while to catch on, but
Oh, you'll catch on just fine.
I
We're
will.
pretty casual.
Yep.